Welcome to Eye on the Illini Live. This is Mike Cagley. Got Marcus Griffin, who's kind enough to come back. He was a good luck charm, but the way Illinois has played when he is tuned
Yep.
in, so we're going to have to. Obviously, his eyes are something that the Illini want to impress. So, Marcus, I look at this game. And I guess one of the big mysteries of college basketball was solved today is, does Illinois just beat the tar out of Juwan Howard, or does Illinois beat the tar out of Michigan? And so now that Juwan's gone and they still beat the tar out of Michigan, I guess Illinois just beats the tar out of Michigan these days.
Yes, beat Michigan. I had a couple of wins against Michigan in my time at Illinois. We just want to beat Michigan. No love lost with Michigan, just beat them. And the Illini did a great job in the second half in securing that victory.
Ked, what did you think after Illinois outscored this team by the Wolverines by 19 points in the second half on the road.
So this goes to Coaching 101 by Mike Cagley, Marcus Griffin, and Kedric Prince. We said you make shots, the game changes. The whole game, they just make shots, man. Who said we talked about it being contagious? You get a couple to go down, and if you guys think we're lying, go back and listen to our halftime podcast. You just need a couple of shots to go down. And when I knew it was game over, when Jake Davis from State Farm he banked that 3-point shot in, I'm like, it's over. But that's what they needed. And even KJ, he was 1 for 10 going into the second half, and then he caught fire. So what a great win. I'm not going to pretend that I thought this was going to happen. And Griff, you're right. Disappointed Illinois women today because I wish they would have won. They had an unbelievable season, because this would have been the year where they swept Michigan, because they beat them in football. They only played them in basketball, men's basketball one time. It's always good to beat them, man, all the time.
Okay, one thing real quick, guys, just to give people, because there's a lot of people listening and watching who don't have the score sheet in front of them. So let me go down at least to give people an idea of what happened there. Mr. Boswell, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Will Riley, 13 points, 4 boards, 5 assists. Ivisic had 7 points, 3 boards, 5 assists. Trey White, 19 points, 11 boards. You had Yacusiones, he was looking at 17 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, only 2 turnovers. Booth had 3 points. He went 1 for 1, and I think he's now 6 for 9 on the year in threes. Gibbs Lawhorn didn't score, 0 for 2, did have an assist. Rick House, 9 points, 3 for 8 from the 3 with 5 boards and an assist. Jake Davis, just 3 for 3 with 2 for 2 from the 3 for 8 points. So a very balanced scoring attack from the Illini today. And guys, remember how we were whining about turnovers? Do you know how many turnovers the Illini had in the second half?
I thought 2.
1.
Yep, I knew. Yep.
1 turnover. It's amazing what you can do when you don't give the other team possessions. Anyway, I'll let you guys talk about it.
But I will say, I actually will give credit to Will Riley, because at the beginning of that second half, he was getting, before they started hitting all those threes, he was getting into the paint. I think he had 3 straight possessions earlier in that second half that he was trying to get to the front of the rim. And that's what they need. And you see a couple of tough shots go in. Like I was saying earlier, it's contagious. You see a tough layup go in, somebody hit a 3. Next thing you pulling up from 30 feet. Next thing you hitting bank threes from the wing. How many threes did they hit the second half?
Illinois was 11 for 23 in the second half from the 3-point line.
So what, they made 14? So what, they was 14 for 42?
14 for 37 overall.
That tells you everything you need to know. Like we said, they make threes. They're a totally different thing.
Cad, get your mic on.
You're on mute.
I have to give credit. Griff, you mentioned Will Riley. That kid has impressed me like the whole second half of the season. He just looks confident. There were shots I wish he would have shot that he passed up. He looks like now just being able to go one-on-one, and he's so tall. He's tough for people, in my opinion, to stay in front of because he's quick enough. I think he's a good enough shooter. His game, he adds a different dimension to that lineup that I've thought about for a long time, even when he struggled, when Ben-Hur was struggling. I also going to give credit to, I see your comment, Fetigator. If you look at my tweet, I tweeted Kylan Boswell was solid. He was great. And Trey White, let's call this a spade. When Trey White plays good, when he's played good, Illinois has won every one of those games. He is the X factor that no one talks about because he's that one athletic guy that can cut, make reverse layups, and I think I've heard the stat, I can just click a button and see, but they had 18 offensive rebounds at one time. And guys, I'll close with this. Brad Underwood made a comment that he didn't care about his team shooting threes, but they better go crash the offensive rebound. That was his only thing. Today, they really went after the offensive rebound, and Michigan looked unathletic. They looked like they were being punched in the mouth because they didn't meet the challenge.
When we played at Illinois, the one thing we wanted to compete with Michigan State, and we knew attacking the backboard was the biggest thing. No matter how you shot, the game was going to be won on the offensive defensive glass. And watching this game, Michigan, they could not get a defensive rebound to save their life. It seemed like Illinois was sending 8 people to the offensive glass every shot, and you could play great defense for 30 seconds. But if you cannot get that offensive rebound or that defensive rebound, that's a wasted possession. And Illinois crashed the glass big time.
On Ivisic, he only played 18 minutes, had 7 points. And when you look at points in the paint this game, Illinois was at 38 points in the paint, and Michigan with the 2 7-footers was at 40. So if you would have told me to start this game that Illinois was going to have a 2-point deficit in the paint,
Yep.
I would have felt really good about the game. And then if you would have told me that Illinois was going to make 14 3-pointers, then I'd have said, folks, we're cooking with fire.
Yep. Illinois makes a 10 to 14, 10 to 15 threes. As hard as they go to the offensive glass, it's going to hurt. But what can hurt Illinois, they can make 14 threes, but if they turn that ball over, and they can lose that game. They didn't turn the ball over the second half. They knocked those threes down, and then they just dominated the glass. What was the total rebounds at the end? I didn't hear you say that.
Total rebounds were, from a team standpoint, Illinois led in rebounds 43 to 32.
Yep.
That's something that people didn't see but didn't anticipate. I certainly didn't, to be honest with you. Assist-wise, Illinois was at 20 assists, Michigan only 9. And turnovers, Michigan was at 11, Illinois was at 9. Illinois shot 47% from the field. Michigan was at 46. And from the three-point range, Illinois was 38, Michigan was 22. From the free throw line, 73% for Illinois, 68% for Michigan. And points off the turnover, Illinois won that by 5, 15 to 10. And when you look at second chance points, Illinois won that 30 to 21.
That's the game.
Yep. And that's all she wrote. And I'm going to also say something right here. I got to tell you, man, the last few games, I think the Big Ten refs, I don't know what the heck they're doing, but they are calling the game where they don't become the major story. And I thought this game with 19 fouls for Illinois, 16 for Michigan.
Let them play.
19, but 15 free throws to 19. I thought the refs were spectacular. And folks, your video or your audio is not broken. The last few games I've had, I don't know if the supervisor has changed up a little bit, but I think this is the type of ball that is much more enjoyable to watch as a fan. The game doesn't get chunked up. Yeah. So let's give kudos.
Yeah, I like to see that. I hate seeing chopped up games, people shooting. I'm sorry, my guy, Mr. Ken. No, I hate seeing chopped up games and people shooting 25, 30 free throws a game. The Big Ten is supposed to be a little bit more physical. Referees need to allow the guys to bump a little bit more contact, especially in the paint. I love to see it.
So do I. And Mike, there was one stat I mentioned earlier. Illinois had 19 offensive rebounds to Michigan's 12. That's a huge factor as well. And you guys talk about the officiating. And Griff, I know you just joined us, but I have been the worst about it because I think it's tough. The reason I liked what they did today, both teams, if you call the game and not let the coaches get in your ear and let the kids play, you're going to get more games like this. And it was. And it's not because Illinois won. They had nothing to do with it. But I've noticed it as well. I watched Michigan State and I watched Wisconsin today. Mike, I don't know if there was an email that went out or a group text message. Even like our friend High Knees, who has been brutal, he was solid today. So I'm just saying, overall, we will never be privy to the information, but it's been totally different. I also want to give kudos to Brad Underwood with something, because obviously Ibiza is the big fella, and he's their go-to guy. He struggled from the field, 3 for 10, 1 for 5. But what Illinois did today, now Ben Humrickhouse is not a great defender. He's not, but he's 6'8", 6'9". Sometimes having a smaller guy on the post guy, because they could get underneath of him and go for steals, it works. And I think Illinois did that today, and it worked with Humrickhouse. And I don't remember who the game was. Oh, it was against Iowa, because they did it with that's a great coaching move. If you're a big guy and you like to post up, sometimes you don't like those little guys, because if it's a big fella, Griff, you can fill them a little bit, you can get space a little bit, and little guys don't defend like that in the post.
Yep, I'm guessing they just wanted the game to be a little faster. They wanted to wear that big boy out that played for Michigan by having him in the game. He is 6'9". He can space the floor a lot more, and gave Illini a big boost. I think he hit a couple threes in the second half himself.
And how about Boswell's D? I think he gave Wolf a handful of problems, which, when you go back to back, because Wolf has played very well. We watched him play in high school. I was one of the first people to do a feature story on him. And you also had a certain Cooper Flagg that Boswell gave a lot of problems last week. We got to give kudos. Boswell's taken a lot of crap from people recently, and some of it was well-deserved.
Yeah.
But look at this. He has returned against two of the better teams, two top 15 ranked teams. He's played back-to-back stellar defensive games and good offensive games.
I felt like his focus at the beginning of the year and part of this year, I thought he was too much trying to be offensive-minded and not defensive-minded. But I seen him in high school playing. I saw him play at Arizona. He is he's a dog. Every game, he needs to lead by defense. He needs to be guarding the best player. And over these last 2 games, I would say not the last 2 games. It's been defensively. It's been a couple of games. It's been about a couple of weeks now. He has just been a dog defensively, and I love to see it. It seems like he's up for the challenge. I just want to see if we go up against the big boy from Michigan State, I need to know what big guy is going to be up to Michigan State or guarding that guy, because I think last time, he got 27 points against Illinois in the paint. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but yeah.
I'll tell you something else with Kylan. You guys are right, he's taken on that challenge to defend the guys in the post, and he's done a good job. I can honestly think right now, Wolf was the one guy scared me coming into the game. And I'm going to take my media hat off for a second. It was good to see that happened to him today. He played bad. Illinois recruited that kid really hard. They wanted him really bad because he's a talented player. And one of the reasons they recruited him hard is because he's from the state of Illinois, and he can't stand Illinois. And that's fine, because Illinois got the last laugh today, and if you will, but I just was really impressed with the person who put up on the message board. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name, that Kylan does deserve credit. And you know what? If we talk, KJ's done well as far as defending guards. I think something happened this week. The time off was good to them. Now I know going into the week, they're going to have the Purdue attitude is going to be a little different, because they've had Illinois' number. They are proving now that they can compete with people. And like we said, shots got to go in. Mike, I have an answer to that question, if you don't mind if I answer it. He hates Illinois because a lot of people do. They just didn't grow up as fans, and some people grew up rooting for other programs. And Illinois wasn't a team for him. And I can honestly tell you, there's a lot of kids who pick Illinois and didn't want to go, and then their parents had influences with it. But I can tell you, they recruited him. I like the kid. There was one kid I really wanted out of the portal, but he does not like them, and that's why I wasn't upset to see him struggle today.
And that's crazy that you say that, because that's, to me, that was the reason why we went to Illinois, because we wanted to change that. I just don't understand. You don't like your state school. I just don't get it, your state university, but to each his own. To each his own.
There's also a lot of stuff up there, Marcus, for a few years, Illinois will be in vogue with one AAU team, and then boom, they're bounced, and then the next couple of years, they're out with the other AA. It's that type of boat. That's why I think Brad Underwood has done so much when he starts bringing people from other areas. I think it really helps balance out maybe some of the challenges of being in Chicago, where it seems like at any given time, you've got one AAU program that's for you, and because they're for you, everybody else is against you. It's just craziness.
Yeah.
Let me tell you guys something. The thing I love about my job is the recruiting part of it. I can tell you guys both, in Griff, you played, and people in the city of Chicago people look at it as their own state. They're divided. And typically Illinois has done well. They'll get a couple kids out of Chicago or suburb area. But from a recruiting standpoint, you guys would be surprised how many people I talk to would say, why would I go to Illinois? Because in the back of their mind, they don't know the success, because of what they see on TV. Duke, North Carolina, Michigan has struggled for years, but they will still come up because it's a brand. So Illinois, they still, for some reason, and people, I'm not kidding you, I know there's kids that committed to Illinois, and some coaches will say, I'm going to say this, and I hope it gets back out there, because I'm having one of those weeks. There was a guy, Danny Hurley, the coach from UConn, excuse me. I saw some messages and the negativity that he said about why would a kid want to go to Illinois fans. You would really freak out if you saw what I saw. And so to me, that's a lack of respect, because Illinois has been one of the best programs under Brad Underwood in the last 8 years. And prior, they struggled before he got there. Griff, your record when you guys were there speaks for itself. The 05 team, they've been really good, but Illinois is always going to have to fight that, because people don't respect them. The fan base is as good as any fan base in the country. And so some fans don't like it because Illinois hasn't won a national title, but they've won their share games. They've won Big Ten tournaments. They've done all those things. But from a coaching standpoint and players, I'm telling you, people do not respect Illinois, and they think you should go somewhere else because you're not going to play in the NBA under Illinois, which is why Brad Underwood really thrives with Io DeSumo and Terrence Shannon Jr., why he has guys right now that are one and done, so they can't use that excuse against Illinois anymore. Sorry,
guys. Let's take a quick break here. Folks, you can obviously join IlliniGuys at $99 a year, 27 cents a day. And we do have sponsors who sponsor our radio program that's going across the state of Illinois and this podcast. So let's listen to this real quick from our friends at Busey Bank, a fantastic bank that's been associated with the Illini for an awfully long time.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the colleges paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
All right, folks, there's the official bank of the Fighting Illini. So if you're looking to open up a new account, make sure that you need somebody for a business loan. Busey Bank is definitely the way to go. As we talk about this team here gelling, Marcus, how important is it? This team had a few days off. Now they don't play again until Friday. They get a few more days off. When you're waiting to see if Morez is going to be able to heal, and you've got Tomislav coming off of a variety of ailments. You've got guys that are getting back into health. How important is this time off?
I'm pretty sure coach are going to have them practice a little bit, maybe because I can remember Coach Selfie. We would have days that we wouldn't even get taped because it would be less contact, maybe just going over a couple things that he want to button up. But again, though, what's important is making sure everybody's getting fluids, making sure everybody's healthy, because I don't know how many times this second half of the year have they had everybody to practice and how long, because this can be a time that you're starting to build that continuity. You got to have that as you're going into the tournament. Like you just want, and then build some consistency, practicing every day, getting everybody out there. Like Mr. Johnson probably won't be back until the middle of the Big Ten tournament, but you want everybody else to be healthy. You want Big Boy to be gaining his weight back so he could be a dominant force on the block. So this time, getting fluids, getting some good meals in them, and just making sure everybody can practice consistently.
Ked?
I agree with that. Actually, I agree with it wholeheartedly because right now they are starting to get healthy. And regardless of what happens Friday, you want to come out and you want to put a good showing up out there because they have. It's been tough. And a lot of people use an injury as an excuse, but it's not. If Visage was not healthy, like we said, and I don't know. I've had a lot of people ask if KJ's still healthy and maybe that he's just gutting through it because it's a wrist problem, not an ankle. Merez, here's my concern with Merez. When I first got the information about his wrist, they thought it was only going to be maybe a week or two because it was a fracture, and I still don't know the diagnosis, so I'm not going to play doctor here. But I was hoping he would come back sooner because it's his left hand, it's not his shooting hand. But if you saw today on the bench, he has that soft cast on his wrist still, which leads me to believe that he's probably going to be out. I don't know. I never saw anybody, spokesperson from the University of Illinois said that he'll be back by the Big Ten tournament. But if he's still wearing that cast, that doesn't look good for me, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree with that. But you should agree with me.
Always, big fella.
Come on, kid. You certainly do when he's standing next to you. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, baby. That's my guy.
There ain't many bigger guys. You got to get into the Kofi class before you get bigger guys than Marcus.
Yeah, Kofi a big boy, though. I remember when I first met him, I was like, I'm glad I ain't had to guard somebody that big.
I tell you what, I bumped into him, and I'm not kidding you. I think that's what it's like when you skip rocks across the lake. I don't even know if he knew I was there.
No, he didn't feel it.
But look, going up, we got Friday night's game. Illinois is on a 5-game losing streak against Purdue. The last time Illinois won was January 2nd, 2020. That's a long streak. I want
to end that. Time to end that streak, guys. We at home. It's a big game. I feel like I think Illinois can move up in the Big Ten tournament standings, correct, if they win that game?
Yes, although I have not broke it down yet.
Yes, and it would also help their seating, Griff, the way I look at it. Here's my thing. I think they have a chance, but there are two guys that scare me with this Purdue roster. When you look at the Braden Smith and then that big fellow, the big Trey guy, they're tough. He makes it real difficult. He's effective in the post, and he doesn't miss block. Braden Smith has just been a thorn in Illinois' side. When Illinois had them beat last year, and he had a chance. But to me, Trey Kaufman is a nightmare matchup for us because that kid is underrated as they become. So a lot of people have him pegged on their first All-Big Ten team.
I think Boswell is going to be ready to take on that challenge of guarding that point guard from Purdue. I can't think of his name you just said it, but it's just
Smith.
Yeah, Smith. I think Boswell is going to, because he's a shifty guard. He gets in that paint. He's the orchestra of that ship that they got over there. And I think the way to beat them is make it very difficult on Mr. Smith. Braid needs to have a very long night come next Friday.
And attack him, get him in foul trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, foul trouble would be important, and Illinois needs to. I think we saw one of the blueprints, and this is where sometimes you're dealing with college kids. You hope they don't get the wrong lesson out of things, but I really hope the Illini players focus less on the fact that they had a hot 3-point shooting half and more on the fact that they didn't turn the ball over, because if you give Purdue 10 extra possessions over a course of a game, you ain't going to beat them.
Nope.
It just doesn't matter. These teams in the Big Ten are too good. And when Illinois can have a half where they are at one turnover, I can only imagine how good they would be if Illinois would have a game where they had, let's say, 4 or 5 turnovers. They're a very tough team when they do that.
Especially with how well they offensive rebound. Oh,
yes.
If they don't turn that ball over, whew.
That might be the biggest component. Ked, any individual play that we haven't talked about that you wanted to highlight? I don't think we've talked a lot about Trey White, but boy, he had a heck of a game. And when you look at it, that was one of the quietest double-doubles, but 19 points, 11 rebounds. It's just a heck of a performance to go up on the road and do that.
Mike, that's what I said a few minutes ago. Having Trey White play the way he plays like that, Illinois is tough to beat. He gives them a different dimension. And here's the deal. He shot the ball 6 for 10, 19 points. I'm not going to rehash that because you went over that. But he was 3 for 4 from 3, man. He was 4 for 4 from the line. And he's 6'5", 6'6". He led the team in rebounding with 11. And I know you asked about Trey, but Boswell, he's 6'2" at best. I know in basketball they lie and give you a couple inches. He had 9 rebounds. So to me, those two guys and Will Riley, today's game, those were the 3 guys, and I tweeted about them before I got on this podcast. Those were the 3 guys that came out and were difference makers to me. Not that KJ wasn't or any of those other guys, because they were all, like Ben made some shots and that were huge, and Jake Davis didn't miss a field goal, 3 for 3, and he didn't miss anything. But when you have guys like Trey White, because let's call it spade, nobody was expecting that from him today. I know I wasn't. Is he capable? Yes, that's different. But that he and Kylan Boswell and Will Riley, I can't say one way or the other if I had to give an MVP. You guys probably could, because both of those guys did something, all 3 of those guys did something during the game that just magnified the game, and I think willed Illinois to win.
Yeah. And I also think there seems to be a little bit of a difference as you look at the confidence that Will Riley is playing with out there.
Yeah.
He just looks comfortable. And I'm not saying that he's been a very good player all across the year, but he's now feeling like he's confident in who he is out there. And so he's actually handling the ball quite a bit. I thought when you get Kasparis the opportunity to play off the ball, I think he becomes a tougher player as well. And we saw that later on in the game when he hit a couple of threes off the pass. I just think when Riley is playing that confident, that also adds to this team.
I think what we saw with Will, I think if you go back to the beginning of the year, he was very confident. He got out there, and I think people was getting used to him. And then in the middles, he has some struggles because I think defense has adjusted. But I think now what you're seeing, he probably feels like he's seen all the different defensive coverages that they could throw on him. And now he's been able to adjust on the fly. He understands that they're going to try to be physical with him. He needs to create more space. He don't need to play with the ball as much. Attack, go straight downhill. Get to the front of the rim. He's not sitting back. I think at the beginning of the season, he was relying on his jump shot just a little bit too much, shooting the 3. But I think now he's going downhill. Instead of playing east and west, he's playing a lot more north-south. He's getting to the front of the rim. You make a couple of those buckets in the paint, then it makes that three-point ball, that rim, a lot bigger. So you can see the confidence on him is just growing every game.
One of the things I heard too, a little bird told me that he struggled being at the top of the scouting report because being a high school kid, he didn't come in with getting as many minutes as KJ. But people don't need to understand when you're at the top of the scouting report, when you're the opposing team, like we just talked about Purdue, what Illinois needs to do to cut the head of that snake off. That means you're going to get the attention. That means on the scouting report, the coaches are going to go through every single detail. If you shoot better going left, if you shoot better going right, your up and under moves. Like if it's me with Will Riley, that guy loves his spin dribble. And I'm thinking to myself, when I see him go once or twice, I'm going to throw another defender. But what he has done now is that he can make the extra pass so that doesn't happen. So on top of the fact that he's at the top of the scouting report, he's now adjusted to it and he's confident.
Agree.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. And I also thought, Rick House, you make your threes, you look good. And Jake Davis, I got to be honest with you, I didn't know that he'd even play this season. And you look at with the illnesses and the injuries, had they not gotten him this year,
Oh,
I
they
think
struggled.
I think it would be some major league struggles. And the funny thing is, he always manages to get that one important offensive rebound. He did,
Yeah.
he did it again today. He's always hustling, and then he's in the middle of everything. Which is, if you're not the greatest player in the world, you got to be able to get in there and stick your nose in on defense and cause problems. I think he's been a big asset to this team that probably goes a little unnoticed because of the talent of some of the other guys.
Would you say he could be a Lucas Johnson?
Oh,
Because not the most athletic, can knock
yeah.
down a timely three from time to time. But the one thing, Lucas was always in there. He'd get a timely offensive rebound. He was a pest on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
Griff, I don't know if you know how well you know Jake, but I did an an article with him and talked to some of his people in his camp. You ask some of the players, they'll tell you that he's the toughest kid on the team. So Lucas Johnson is probably a very good comparison because you don't see it. Jake doesn't back down from anything. And he'll get in there. He'll mix it up with big people, smaller people. He's just a tough-minded kid, and it's easy for us because we see that long blonde hair, that California look, but he's got a little edge to him with that little dog in him, and he's not afraid to shoot it. Even though he'll miss one, he'll still go back with it. Mike, I agree. I didn't think he'd see the floor, but they brought him in to shoot and make shots, and today they did that. And it was I don't want to leave this out. It was really nice to see a guy like Trey Wyatt and Booth on the bench when the guys were making threes to see how animated they were. Guys aren't getting minutes that they want, and I know there's some frustration, but it was really nice to see them cheer their teammates on because it's been a hell of a season for them. They didn't have the season that they thought, but they can still fix it because it's not over.
Yeah.
And you got it, Mike.
No, I was going to say the growth of this team right now, and I do think it's facilitated by the guys getting healthy and having that time that they can get some practice and get some of that connectivity. This team, again, we've said this and people got mad at us all year long. We said this team has an incredibly high ceiling and it also has a lower floor than what you would like.
Yeah.
And we saw that with the injuries, how low they could go. And on games like this, this Michigan team is ranked 15 in the country, and Illinois went into their house and won by 20, and Illinois didn't really break a sweat in the second half. This team can do some things, but it also needs the right conditions.
Oh, yeah. Everything is about, especially when it's come to shooting, anytime Illinois gets out on the court, they have a chance to beat and compete against anybody because they can shoot the ball. But again, shooting, you can make some, you can miss some, but they're going to put them up. And they're getting better as the year has gone defensively. Like Boswell, Trey White has gotten out there and really started to press them to get up in front of people, get into people. And so as long as they continue to do that, I think they got an opportunity to beat everybody that they play. But again, they shoot a lot of threes. You just have to wait and see how that goes. But I'm liking where we at right now. I wish we would have had that last victory, but we got another chance to get one on Friday. I'm liking where we headed.
I'm trying to find Michigan's schedule. Was today senior day for Michigan? Do you guys know?
It was.
Yeah.
You know, how tough is that? You know what I mean? To lose to Illinois, I think a lot of people are asking, it's 9 straight games that they've lost to Illinois. So it's not just a Juwan Howard thing. You know, it could look like Brad Underwood had the little extra pep in his step today too. So I think he knew that whole Michigan factor was always in the play because he's on them. And there's some teams you just don't match up well with. I got to call it. Illinois is always struggling against Maryland. I think Underwood's only beaten Maryland maybe once or twice since he's been there. He's done well against Michigan State. He's done really well against Iowa as of late. But there's just some teams you do well against. And right now, he owns Michigan.
Yep. So I'm going to let you guys each kind of give me your wrap up here as we think back on this game, your thoughts wrapping up this game and what you're looking forward to with that massive Purdue matchup on Friday night on national TV on Fox. Marcus?
I will say, I'm sorry, I'm moving around.
That's
I'm
fine.
moving around. So I will say this game today was a tale of two halves. A lot of turnovers in the first half. Could knock down a three consistently. Came on the second half, attacked the paint a little bit more, got some points in the paint, and then the contagion started with knocking down threes. They continue to dominate the glass, and I think if we can take that formula for the rest of the season, I see big things. We just got to be more consistent doing those little things, take it to next Friday, and then take it to the following week into the Big Ten tournament.
I like what Griff just said. I like that formula part. Griff, I love that because you're right. Those little things that the coaches see every day, the fans don't. They have to be able to do all those little things that you mentioned. What I really want to see, and again, I said at the start of this podcast, I didn't think they were going to beat Michigan today because they had struggled. Illinois does play well on the road, and it's not me just being a negative Nelly. I just didn't see it coming. Friday, I'll take my media hat off again. Illinois, I want this win. I want this win for them. Mike, you mentioned 2021. There's been some great games. I remember when Carbello played, when they had Zach Edey, I thought they should have won. Illinois has always battled Michigan. They had them last year, as I mentioned, in Champaign with Terrence Shannon, and Braden Smith just pull a rabbit out of his hat. That is, if there's any team, and there's no smoke with Purdue fans. I don't want anybody at me because I'm not entertaining that right now about me disliking Purdue. I just don't think they're a better team or program than Illinois right now. But for some reason, they get a pass. If you look at the most wins in the conference in the last couple of years, it's been Purdue and Illinois. So I want them to see them get that win because it's good. And also for seeding purposes, guys, because that 8-9, everybody has them on the 8 seed. I do not want to see them play a Duke or Alabama again. I don't. Actually, if they beat Purdue and got to the championship game, it'll be a hell of a holiday gift again, even though it's freaking March, to get a 5 seed or 6 seed. I don't want anything to do with a 1 or 2 seed right now.
Do you believe that we can get a still 5 seed?
Here's the deal, because other teams are going to lose. 6 is probably more realistic, Griff, to be honest with you. But when I look at like a UCLA, I think they had them as a 7. Illinois beat UCLA. So that's why I mentioned if they can go out and they beat Purdue and at least win 2 or 3 games, because they're going to play somebody really good in the Big Ten tournament. So beating a team like Wisconsin or beating a team like Michigan State again, or Michigan, because they're probably still going to be ranked, or even if you get a chance to beat Maryland, because then what they're going to say is, and people did like Illinois in the beginning of the year, even though they were losing, they're going to say, okay, guys, Illinois is rolling right now, so they'll bump them up. Because Illinois, I feel, should have fallen out of the top 25 a couple of times. If they get those wins, I guarantee you they can at least pop up to a 6.
Agree. Okay.
Yeah, and let's look at this. Illinois is actually the longest win streak they've ever had against Michigan is 11. Right now they're sitting at 9. Now that 11-game winning streak started in the year 2000. Illinois beat Michigan 75-59, and our man Marcus Griffin, he had 8 points in 15 minutes in that game.
I got hurt that game.
3 rebounds and 4 fouls.
I got hurt
that game. Yep, I got hurt that game. That was the game I went up for a dunk and dude hit my legs and I let it on my tailbone.
Yep. And
I remember that game.
So you started that 11-game winning streak. Illinois is getting really close. 2 more wins and they can actually tie that up. So that's a good goal to go for. Anytime you can beat Michigan in a sport, that's a good thing.
Yep.
Next up is Purdue, 5-game losing streak the Illini have. Braden Smith has played better than I thought he would play without Zach Edey. So you got to give the kid props. But Illinois, they have their opportunity now to make their case to the NCAA. And if they win more games, that would give the people who are determining what seed they are, the more wins Illinois gets, gives more credence to those individuals saying, you know what, we're not going to count some of those losses so harshly because they were injured, sick, whatever. So Illinois has the opportunity, one of those rare times in life where you've slipped up. They have an opportunity to make up for it.
Agree.
Got to
And
go out and
you
play
know
well.
what, fellas? I saw today they have the 11th toughest schedule in college basketball. They went out and they didn't dodge people this year. So hopefully that's going to help as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So folks, we really appreciate you dropping by to listen to us. Of course, we're very fortunate to have Marcus Griffin come on. We really appreciate when he comes on. And of course, you can subscribe to IlliniGuys.com. It's only $99 a year, and you'll have the opportunity to do some things that are different than here. Obviously, you get our podcasts and stuff. That's cool. But the neat thing is you get all of our stories without the paywall getting in your way. And then the other thing is you get the message boards. And when you get the message boards, that allows you to go ahead and communicate back and forth with Ked, with Brad, with Larry, with Matt. And you can say, hey, in this story, you said X. I don't really understand that. Why did you say that? So it's an interactive thing. We'd love to have you there. And folks, every person who subscribes, we want to get that community of Illini fans stronger. It's a great place to hang out. You can, and then tons of people, Larry and Brad and Ked and I have known each other for 20 years through online like that. And then the other part is that's what allows us some of the revenue that allows us to get Brad on a plane to go to New York City to cover the Duke game, which was tough. It allow us to go to the Big Ten tournament. I mean, you go to the Big Ten tournament, that means you got to get a hotel room for multiple days. You have to be able to do that. Same thing with the NCAA tournament. So we love having more subscribers because it allows us to do that. Nobody's getting wealthy on this, but we're having a fun time being Illini fans, and we're having a great time covering the sports that you guys are really interested in. Yep. So please, folks, feel free to jump on and be a part of that. Of course, we'll be back at Purdue with the halftime show and the post-game show. Until then, folks, go Illini.